A lawyer from work humiliated me and made me cry 3 times, accusing me of being slow. Okay, I'll speed up. This happened many years ago when I was about 19. I worked at the reception, greeting people in the waiting area of a law firm. It was quite small but very successful with 4 partners, and the main one was a woman after whom the company was named. She was very strict like Judge Judy, so let's call her Judy. A new lawyer joined the team. Let's call her Anna. We had lawyers for real estate deals, injuries, finances, and criminal cases, but Anna was supposed to handle family law. Her specialization and main task were helping victims of domestic violence. At that time, all the victim clients were women. She was amazing at her job. I saw so many victims of violence while they waited in the reception area. Due to stress and anxiety, they sometimes started telling me their life stories right there. I tried to comfort them. Sometimes they had to wait an hour or more if something urgent came up. Anna fought for these women with all her might. Restraining orders, emergency hearings, police interrogations, protection, arranging shelters, child custody. I genuinely admired her and still do. She was a lifeline for these women. Anna was incredibly aristocratic and educated, spoke better than a character from Downton Abbey or even the Queen herself, but she was very blunt and sometimes swore. Hearing her discuss another abusive husband in her regal manner, saying, "What a little expletive," made us giggle. But she restrained herself and mostly acted professionally around clients. Most of the time, I handled paperwork, typed statements under dictation, and logged calls from women about restraining orders when their ex-partners or abusers tried to contact them again. Those calls were constant. "Hi, Sabrina. He called me today at 8:15, then at 10, and sent an email at 2100 from his mother's account," and so on. All of this had to be recorded and sent to the court. There were so many calls that I recognized each client by their voice. This will be important later. A month after Anna started, she was mentioned in a newspaper article that portrayed our firm very well. The article emphasized the importance of Anna's work in ensuring safety for victims. We congratulated her, but it went to her head, and she became arrogant and irritable. She allowed herself sarcastic remarks toward the secretaries and other employees. She got conceited, became increasingly rude, and as soon as she walked into the office, she'd shout, "Coffee my way." I tolerated it. She was under stress at work and doing important work. Since this was a long time ago, most documents had to be sent by fax. Her office was 2 doors down from the reception. She'd warned me in advance if she was expecting something important, and then I had to drop everything and urgently bring her the papers. Legal materials, police reports, or restraining orders, which could literally be a matter of life and death for a client. And so, a restraining order document arrived for a client who was in Anna's office at that moment. She was crying, looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her story was horrific. I had typed some of her statements, and I felt heartbroken for her. The rule was simple. If something important arrived, I had to bring it immediately, even if a client meeting was happening. The documents came, I ran to the office, handed Anna the papers, and left. A minute later, Anna was yelling at me in the reception area because the fax had a timestamp from an hour earlier. I was bewildered because I definitely gave her the papers as soon as they came out of the fax, but she wouldn't stop shouting that my laziness and stupidity put this woman's life at risk and that I should be fired. The commotion was so loud that Judy, the company's founder, came out of her office, listened with a stone-cold face, and then calmly said, "Please, in the future, deliver documents faster to avoid problems." Then it happened again. An 8-page document arrived for the same client, who was again in Anna's office. I ran, handed over the papers, and was about to leave the office, but I didn't make it. Anna started yelling at me again. "This is from an hour ago too. What the expletive, Sabrina, what did I tell you?" This time she resorted to swearing. I couldn't even get a word in. All this was happening in front of the poor client, who was clearly very uncomfortable. Judy came to the door again, her face just as impassive, and asked me to come with her. She asked what was going on. I explained. Anna followed us and started yelling again that I had no respect or kindness for these women, that I was lazy, completely incompetent, and clearly had something wrong with my head. I broke down crying in the bathroom. A few days later, the same client came again. The situation had escalated, and her case made it into the newspapers. It was a horrific case, and now all 4 partners and Anna were in the office with her. I went in to hand a folder to one of the partners, and Anna, with a smirk, said, "This came an hour ago too, huh? There's some kind of pattern here." Right in front of the client and all 4 of her bosses. But this time, I didn't care. The night before, I had one of those moments when you're lying in bed, trying to sleep, and suddenly it hits you. I calmly said, "The documents had a time an hour later because the clocks were changed for daylight saving, or standard time. You could have noticed because the ink on the paper hadn't even dried when I handed it to you." And indeed, the document on her desk from yesterday had slightly smudged text. Our fax was old and didn't automatically update the time. My little moment of triumph was spoiled when, leaving the office, I tripped over my own foot and hit my head on the doorframe, giving Anna plenty to laugh about. The next day, we had a meeting about professional behavior in the office. The client who witnessed Anna's outburst approached Judy. She was seriously upset about how Anna treated employees, and her swearing scared her. Judy made it very clear that such behavior was unacceptable. This woman had already heard enough yelling and swearing in her life. Anna reluctantly apologized to me. I just shrugged. Judy later apologized personally for not stepping in when she should have. I said it was fine, and that's when my malicious compliance began. Every call I was supposed to log, instead of entering it into the shared computer spreadsheet, I wrote on a separate sticky note. As a result, I was running back and forth 10 times an hour. Anna's desk was buried under sticky notes with things like 10 o'clock, call from client X's husband. She was furious, but that's exactly what I wanted. I went through a ton of sticky notes. Then something strange happened. A woman who was in a shelter with her daughter called and said she had reconciled with her husband, wanted to close the case entirely, and didn't want any further contact. It happens sometimes. Victims of abuse go back when it gets too hard. But this was a particularly brutal case, and she had been through a lot. I immediately told Anna, and she said she'd call the woman back in a couple of days. If the husband was nearby, a call could put her in danger. But I said, no, call the police. She asked, why? And I replied, that wasn't her calling. I know her voice, and it wasn't her. We called a welfare check, and sure enough, her husband had forcibly taken her home and made his adult daughter call the office, pretending to be her. He was arrested. When everything was safely resolved and the woman was in a much more secure shelter, Anna gave me a bottle of wine and a thank you card. Then she asked me to stop with the sticky notes, saying she got the point and apologized again, but this time, sincerely. The moral of the story: don't treat people like garbage, even if you have the best intentions and are trying to help. We can all be kind. So, share your opinion on this story in the comments. I personally like that. Unlike most malicious compliance stories, this one ended very well for both people. There's no classic villain or hero teacher here. It's clear that Anna was the villain, but it's nice that she realized her mistakes, apologized to the main character, and they reached some kind of understanding, even restoring their relationship. I think their relationship even improved after this. Tell me if you agree with me, and let's move on to the next story.